This episode is brought to you by the Vail Wine Classic. Head up to the mountains for this beautiful celebration of international wines and spirits, as well as Colorado's home favorites like Carboy Winery, Outer Range Brewing, and Woody Creek Distillers. Going down August 6th through the 8th, this big wine event features programming such as sommelier-led wine hikes, paired lunches and dinners at Vail's top restaurants, and an exclusive sunset showcase called Best of Fest, featuring 90-plus rated wines overlooking the Gore Range. Ticket prices go up as it gets closer to August, but you can save money right now by buying sooner. Just use code CITYCAST at checkout for $10 off. For tickets and a full schedule, visit vailwineclassic.com. And don't forget to use code CITYCAST for $10 off. This episode is brought to you by Denver Bike Fest. Check out Denver Bike Fest Saturday, June 13th from 3 to 9 p.m. at York Street Yards. This free, all-ages celebration of Denver's bike community brings you live music from Boys with Blue, Modern, and Yugs. Plus, drinks from Cohesion Brewing, 8 food vendors, and 50-plus bike partners offering demos, workshops, games, and so much more. Roll up to the fest and take advantage of the free bicycle valet from Z Cycle Shop. Oh, did I mention we will be there? Come hang out with CityCast Denver as we keep the fun rolling on the main stage. Learn more about the celebration and sign up to volunteer at denverbikefest.app. That's denverbikefest.app. Hey Denver, it's Bree. Before we get to the show, just a note. This episode contains some explicit language. Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Today, we're bringing you a conversation we had last fall with Senator Michael Bennet, who is currently running to be the next governor of Colorado. We did reach out to his campaign and were not able to get an interview in advance of this month's primaries. Senator Michael Bennet, welcome back to CityCast Denver.
Thank you so much for having me.
And producer Paul Caroli is also here. Hi, Paul.
Hey, what's up, Bree?
So, Senator Bennet, it seems like you've been spending a little more time around Denver since you've been back on the campaign trail. And I wonder, do you have a go-to spot for Mexican food?
That is the easiest question that anybody has ever asked me. And the answer to that is El Taco de Mexico on Santa Fe.
It's my litmus test, I'll be honest with you, how people answer this.
It is. I'm so delighted that you asked, because a lot of times people ask lifestyle questions. I'm like, what? That is emphatically the answer to that question. And I can give you a considered view, which is that is the best taco restaurant in the United States of America, and certainly in Colorado.
I think a lot of folks would agree. Well, let's talk about your run for governor. What's the biggest problem facing Colorado right now, in your opinion?
I think we're facing an affordability crisis in this state that is getting worse and worse and worse. And it is becoming devastating to people that are living here. There's not a county in Colorado where people feel like their kids are going to be able to afford to live there. There's not a neighborhood in Colorado where people feel like their kids are going to be able to afford to live there. And their kids worry that they're not going to be able to afford to live in Colorado. My kids worry that they're not going to be able to afford to live in Colorado. This isn't just a housing issue. This is a child care issue. This is the cost of auto registration. It's the cost of health care. It's the cost of health insurance. And it's our version, I think, in Colorado of the economic misery that has elected Donald Trump not just once but twice in this country. And so I think we can sit here on our hands and color inside the lines and have another decade go by where the median family house price doubles again in Colorado, or the cost of child care goes from $20,000 on average to $40,000, or we can do something about it. And I think if we do something about it, we can restore faith that our exercise in self-government actually can work. And if we can't do anything about it, we shouldn't be surprised if Trumpism continues and continues and continues. He is a symptom of our problem. I think fundamentally as a nation, I blame him for many, many things, but getting elected is not one of those things. And And I think if you don't understand them as a symptom, you're never going to understand what we have to do to move them out of the way.
Give us an idea to fix this affordability crisis.
Well, I've
You're
already
talking about a lot of issues.
the first issue, the first policy proposal I put out was a very comprehensive approach to housing. That's about building much more housing, trying to get to a place, certainly to have a goal that nobody in Colorado has to pay more than 30% of their income for housing. That's going to be obviously not something that's going to be fixed overnight, but I think we can take steps today to build more housing, to build it more densely, to build it more affordably, to give people more choice in the housing that they buy. And by the way, it's not just my kids I'm worried about here, or young people in the state. It's also seniors, who want to have a place to move other than the place that they're in. I think that.
Well, I'm sorry. This is the problem we know. This is the problem Jared Polis talks about. He said these same words could have come out of his mouth, and he's been working on it for years. What's an idea? What's something you'd do differently than him?
Well, I think that first of all, I hope you'll look at the policy proposal that I've made.
I listened to your announcement. I was kind of confused.
Well, let me help you be unconfused.
Please.
Tell me what challenged you.
Well, you said stuff like, I want to unleash private industry. I want to cut red tape. I want to remove barriers. And I was like, what? How? What are the ones? What are the moves? What are the bills that he has not considered or proposed that you want to do?
Well, I think, for example, first of all, this isn't just about bills. So I think that's a huge mistake. This is about propelling our entire state to have an aligned set of incentives and an aligned commitment to a set of outcomes that is going to make it possible for our kids to afford housing here. One of the ideas that I included was using the state's balance sheet so that we can provide 30% more state-supported housing than the state government has been able to do so far. That's an idea that's totally different than what Jared Polis has proposed. I think my approach would be totally different as well. I've spent my entire political career, building coalitions and creating the kind of collaboration that we need to be able to align those incentives, and to be able to much better align our credits and other federal and state and local tax incentives that are available to people to build housing in Colorado. I don't think we've done that good a job of aligning that. I described in my plan that we should have a one-stop shop in the state of Colorado to make sure that that projects are people don't have to shop in one agency and another agency and another agency to get the benefit of the state subsidies for housing. I mean, that's something that the state has not done. So I think it's very different from what has been proposed before. I think it's, one thing to observe the problem. It's another thing to actually create an ecosystem where we can achieve a goal that I think is achievable, which is to try to get to a place where people don't have to spend more than 30% of their income on housing, which, by the way, we are very, very far from that today. When I was the superintendent of schools in Denver, every day I did a faculty meeting in Denver. And I almost never met a teacher that didn't live in Denver. That was one of the awesome things about teaching in Denver, unlike Seattle or San Francisco or Portland. Our teachers could actually live near where the schools where they taught. That's no longer true in Denver. It's not true in Jeffco. It's not true in Douglas County. It's not true in rural Colorado. We are going to have to take this on as a state, and I think we will.
I just want to ask one more question about housing, because this is very important to our listeners. You talked about a collaborative approach, and you've also talked about density. And I think that's exactly the problem Jared Polis has run into. As he passed this big package of legislation, he has called on local municipalities to increase density, to do transit-oriented development, and then they all, especially some of these south suburbs, I'm thinking about
Lakewood.
Littleton, Englewood, like all these south suburbs have sued him when he tried to compel them to make these changes with an executive order. What would be your approach to creating this density that you and him have both pursued?
I think my approach would be very different from that. I'm not somebody, I've spent my entire career stealing other people's really good ideas. And the way you do that is by listening to other people. The way you do that is by spending time with them in their neighborhoods and in their city council chambers and in their schools and on their farms and ranches. Taking in their input and their suggestions. By the way, my housing plan itself was the result of a process just like that. My child care plan that I have introduced was itself a process like that. And in my view, that is fundamentally an exercise in coalition building, and that is fundamentally an exercise in building the kind of collaborative work that has to be done with every level of government in the state and with the private sector and with nonprofits and other organizations. So I think I am friends with Jared. I admire Jared. I think he's done a good job as governor. Our approaches on this question might be aligned in the sense of, seeing the need and wanting to think about how to make it better. I think that our approach in terms of doing the work will be vastly different. I'm not unaware of the limitations of the current approach. I mean, and I'm not running for this job to fill a seat. I'm not running for this job to color inside the lines or nibble around the edges. We can't do that anymore and be able to look ourselves in the face and know that our kids are going to be able to afford to live in Colorado.
You think he's nibbling around the edges?
We can't do that anymore. We can't do that anymore, and believe that these are challenges that actually can be solved in a way that can give people hope that they still have the American dream for their kids. I'm not accusing him of anything, but I don't think we've delivered. Listen, the median family cost of a single-family house in Colorado is $650,000. The cost of childcare in Colorado is $20,000 on average.
Yeah.
That is a disgrace. We are the fifth most expensive state in America to buy a single-family house. We are the fourth, I think, most expensive state in America to buy childcare. That is a fucking disgrace. And we have to address it because people aren't going to be able to live in this state if we don't. And for me, it's not about, this isn't about playing politics. It's not about, rhetoric. It's about how are we going to roll up our sleeves and actually do the work? And I think we'll be able to do it.
Mandatory upzoning, that wouldn't be nibbling around the edges. I mean, this is the direct problem. These local municipalities, they want to preserve the character of the neighborhoods. They want to preserve the character of their communities.
Listen,
would you compel them to upzone?
Let me say
to create
this
duplexes
to you.
and fourplexes?
I don't think there actually is. I'm going to push back on you.
Sure.
I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all approach that's going to work. I don't think it will work. I think that what Lakewood is going to do and what Breckenridge is going to do and what Lyman is going to do and what Durango and Grand Junction are going to do and Alamosa are all going to look different. I think that it would be a fool's errand to believe that every one of these diverse communities is going to approach this work in the same way, or that they're going to respond well to some edict from the central office, or that you're even going to be able to do it all at the same time in the same place. I just don't think that's how you make change. I think what you have to do is find willing dance partners in this state, and there are many of them who are elected officials at the local level and the county level, who are business leaders, who are the CEOs of hospitals, who are people that have the responsibility to figure out how to deliver mental health care and education to the people who live in their communities, who don't need a lecture from you about the need to build housing in their communities. What they need is a collaborative partner from the governor who can help think differently about how to create a set of financing structures that can make the capital stack cheaper so that people can afford housing, who can help align the incentives and disincentives up and down the state, from the state through local governments down, or through county governments down to local governments, who can make it possible for people to be able to actually build housing in a cheaper and more quick way. And that's I think you are obviously passionate about this. I'm obviously passionate about this. And I think that we need to deliver results, because I think we're out of time for the reasons that I said. And I apologize for using the word I used. I won't do it again.
I've never heard you curse before.
Well,
I've heard you raise your voice before, though. You do have the occasional viral moment.
It's an interesting topic that affects
I didn't bring
everyone.
Ted Cruz with me today.
I don't know. I live in a neighborhood that has one of the first pilot programs for ADUs. You can see public housing from my porch. We are already integrating all of these housing styles that I don't necessarily see in some other neighborhoods in Denver. So it's something that I think about a lot too.
Well, and you think about things like the bill that ran last. By the way, passing a bill in Denver is not the same thing as building more housing in Colorado. And passing a bill in Denver is not the same thing as making childcare cheaper in Colorado. It's about execution. And I think that that's been some of the huge challenges that we've faced as a nation. And it's not surprising to me that we're facing some of those same challenges in our state legislature as well.
This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. Created from pollutants like car exhaust, ground-level ozone is the Colorado Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems. But you can do something about it. Take simple steps for better air this summer by carpooling and combining car trips to save gas, or by taking the bus or light rail to get where you need to go instead of driving. And when you're parked in parking lots, at the trailhead, or when picking someone up, be sure to turn your car off and don't let the car idle with the AC on. But hey, why not get out of your car altogether? Walk, bike, or scoot shorter distances, or maybe try one of those cool new black and turquoise Vio bikes and scooters that are popping up all around town. And did you know there's still a $225 state rebate on e-bikes? And the city of Denver also has its e-bike rebate opening again on July 7th. Want to know when it matters most to take these steps? Sign up for summer ozone alerts by texting Better Air CO to 21000, or sign up for emails at the Simple Steps Better Air website. Learn more ways to help improve our air quality on the Colorado Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. That's simplestepsbetterair.org. This episode is brought to you by Energy Outreach Colorado. Energy Outreach Colorado is a statewide nonprofit helping income-qualified Coloradans pay their energy bills. If you're having to make tough choices like paying utilities or putting food on the table, Energy Outreach Colorado is here to help and ease that burden. Programs range from utility bill assistance to emergency furnace repair to community solar and energy efficiency work. So what does that look like in practice? Well, Energy Outreach Colorado's crisis services keep electricity, gas, and heat running with immediate bill pay assistance. But they also focus on the long term by investing in energy efficiency, electrification, and affordability solutions like community solar, all to help prevent future financial risks for families and neighbors who need it most. Learn how Energy Outreach Colorado is creating affordable energy solutions for Coloradans at energyoutreach.org. That's energyoutreach.org. Let's switch gears a little bit.
I've heard people say, go ahead, you go ahead. I'll
It's like
stop.
we got
I was going to talk about the churches, but in the backyards, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've heard from lots of liberals and more progressive-minded people that they don't feel so good about the Democratic Party, and that leadership can feel like an old boys club. Like, it's guys like you, Hickenlooper, Polis. You've worked together. You've rotated. I mean, you've been in these positions, and you've been in positions of power for a long time. And maybe that you aren't super in touch with what everyday people want. Do you think you're out of touch with the average Coloradan?
No, I don't. I think that I've spent my life in public service in touch with the average Coloradan. And I think it's reflected in the decisions that I've made all throughout my career. I'm not aware of anybody in the history of our country who has been both an urban school superintendent and a 3-term senator. I'm not aware of anybody in the history of our country who's been an urban school superintendent and a 3-term senator and somebody who turned around failing companies and knows something about how the private sector actually works, which I don't think is a bad thing for us to have leaders that do. And I have thought many times when I've been in the Senate that it's too late to grow a spine when you get there. You need to have done it before you get there. And the work in particular that I led in the Denver Public Schools, I think, has stood me in very good stead since I've been there, because we had to make very hard choices that were very difficult over a pretty long period of time to be able to deliver for the people that I work for. So quite apart from being out of touch, I feel like I'm actually quite in touch, and I am horrified by the situation we find ourselves in, which is with the entire economy and the entire democracy at risk because of the failures of my generation. I feel a moral obligation to my own 3 daughters that is no different from the moral obligation I feel to the kids I worked for in Denver, or to kids who live all over rural Colorado, whose parents want for them exactly the same thing that the parents in Denver Public Schools want for their kids, but who are divided from each other because of a political system that is serving only the interests of the politicians. And by the way, nobody can take a backseat to me, I don't think, in terms of my anger at the National Democratic Party and the failures that led to the election, not just of Donald Trump once, but twice. I share that view.
Yeah, I think we're hearing your anger today for sure. But I think that, do you know what Bree's talking about, though? This sense, like, for young people have this sense, we see it in this poll, Magellan Strategies has 44% disapproval for you among several of your peers, like Jared Polis, Hickenlooper, compared to 38% approval. We're seeing the numbers. This is not good numbers.
Well, I think that I stand by my public service, and I stand by the arguments that I'm making in this election, and people can make their decision about whether or not they think that, what I'm saying is what I believe and what I'm saying is relevant to what they believe and what they think. That's a choice they're going to have to make. Mm-hmm. I feel very confident that that if I somehow lose this election, it's not going to be because people think I'm out of touch with them. There may be other reasons, but I don't think that will be the reason why. And
what do you think?
I do think that a much more important question is why young people in America and in Colorado feel like they hate all politicians, they hate all political parties, they hate our political system, and believe that our democracy won't work for them. And I understand completely why they believe what they believe. And my argument is that that is not to argue that we don't have a corrupt system. We do have a corrupt system. We do. It is corrupt. The question is, what do you do about that corruption? And I think that we have to find a way to be able to engage young people in a system that has not delivered for them, but depends on them for our survival. The system of American democracy will not survive if people that are the age of my children do not grab the levers of this democracy. And that is a huge challenge.
What would you say to someone, though, that says you've been in Washington, you've been as close to Trump as you could be? What are you going to do from Colorado to fight back that you haven't been able to do there?
Well, I think that it is, there are many things that I'm proud of that I've been able to accomplish in Washington, from the expanded child tax credit, which cut childhood poverty in America in half. I would ask anybody listening to this to tell me what domestic policy since the 1960s has made a greater difference to working people and to poor families in this country than that. I think the public lands that I have worked to protect in Colorado, from Camp Hale to Camp Amachi and to a million places in between, which is the most significant record of public lands protection we've seen for 40 years in Colorado is a testament to being able to get stuff done. I think the work that I did to make sure that our tax code meaningfully supported the transition to a clean energy environment and to wind and solar in particular in Colorado is a climate record that very few people could have. So under really difficult circumstances, I think I've been able to get a bunch of stuff over the finish line that really matters. But I'm not going to disagree that the system is not broken. It is broken. We have a permanent game of shirts and skins that is not delivering for the American people. We have a Republican Party in Washington that has become a cult of personality that is serving the kleptocracy of Donald Trump and his family. And we have a Democratic Party who has lost 2 elections to Donald Trump, one of which the American people took 4 years off in between and still sent Trump back. And I am not Monday morning quarterbacking. My criticisms for my own party were very clear before this happened.
You were very early.
I am saying now that I believe the battle is in Colorado. The fight is in the states. Colorado can set an example for the rest of the nation, but we're going to have to get there not through rhetoric, but by actually delivering. And I believe I can unify our state, including the young people that you're talking about, and the seniors that are stuck in houses that they can't get out of, and the red parts of Colorado and the blue parts of Colorado that really do want the same thing for the next generation of Coloradans, in a set of policy choices and political choices that can create an example for the rest of the nation where people say, wow, when we're trying to think about childcare, Colorado has an answer. When we're trying to think about affordable housing, Colorado has an answer. When we think about how to educate kids for this economy that is changing at a speed that we have not seen in my lifetime, that Colorado has an answer. So that's the answer to your question.
Here's a specific on this topic that's been in the news. Your main opponent in the Democratic primary commented on this. He was the first statewide elected official, Phil Weiser, Attorney General, to come out in support of an exceptional redistricting, congressional redistricting, to allow Democrats to send an additional Democrat to Congress to help retaliate against what Trump is doing in Texas and other states. I don't think you're on the record one way or the other on this. So we wanted to know, do you support an exceptional redistricting to send more Democrats?
I've said, and I've said again, we should, at a moment when Trump is doing what Trump is doing, we should keep all our options open. We should keep all our options available to us. But our focus right now needs to be on 2026, not on 2028. Our focus needs to be on winning the House of Representatives. That is what every single elected leader should be focused on. That is what the people of this country need to be focused on. We have the 8th congressional district, which we lost in the last election, shockingly, to Donald Trump. We have to get that back. We have a congressional election we can win in, I think, in El Paso County. And let's go and do that. Let's take on Lauren Boebert. Let's make sure that we win. So I say, sure, let's not take anything off the table, but let's not get distracted from the stuff that actually matters. Because if we don't win those elections, if we don't win that majority, it doesn't matter. That's the most important thing that we can do.
So just so I'm clear, you're saying don't take it off the table. I'm hearing that as a yes. You like the idea.
I'm saying don't take it off the table. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I think we should talk about some of these other issues that Governor Polis has recently taken a stand on, just some issues that were hot topics in the legislature in the last year. There were 3 in particular bills that he vetoed that a lot of young people were pretty upset about. People, listeners to our show here in Denver, we wanted to hear what you have done or might do if you're faced with these same bills. So
Would you sign the Worker Protection Act, which would make it easier to form a union?
I haven't made a public statement about that. I'm not yet the governor. I said.
Would you make one now?
I said at the last time that Polis was considering this that I believed that we should come to a compromise on this, and that I thought a compromise was possible. Unfortunately, the deal fell apart, and he's going to have the chance to negotiate another. He'll have another opportunity to negotiate this, and I think we only have one governor at a time. So I'm watching it carefully.
I'm just thinking about people listening to this and going, how is this going to be different from Polis? How are you going to be different from Polis?
I don't know why you keep asking that question, because I think that maybe it's because
people know him. They know what it's like to live here under Polis. We want to know what it'd be like to live under Governor Bennet.
Well, I've tried to express that during the course of this conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another issue. Uber sexual assault bill, which would increase regulations on rideshare companies. He vetoed it after the rideshare companies threatened to leave the market.
I would not have vetoed that bill.
Okay. And the next one on the topic of housing, some people would call this some red tape, a regulation or something, but there was a bill, it's come back now twice, to ban products like RealPage that use algorithms to help landlords set the rent.
I haven't looked at it.
Oh. Huh. What about restaurants? Polis was all gung-ho about this bill about lowering the tip minimum wage. Denver restaurants are closing. We want to know what you think about that bill, and if not.
I think the much more important question is, can we create a set of conditions in our state where we're not losing a quarter of the restaurants in Denver, where small businesses aren't being driven out of their business? And I think we've got to address that. We're going to have to find ways of dealing with it. And I think a bunch of well-intentioned legislation piled up in a way that resulted in there being more closures than during COVID. And that's a huge problem.
I want to ask you about something that Denverites are going to be voting on here pretty soon. And I know you just released a policy platform on childcare this morning. I haven't had a chance to dig in, but there is one question on Denver ballots right now that is related to kids, which is, I wonder how you're planning to vote on this proposal to repeal Denver's ban on flavored tobacco.
I believe that we should support the ban on flavored tobacco.
All right.
But I'm glad you asked that one, because I've not actually had a chance to review all of the ballot. And so I have more to think about between now and then.
Are there any election issues you're watching? I mean, I know it's an off-year election, but you vote in Denver, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just answered a question on the ballot.
Yeah, I don't know. Were there other questions on there that you're thinking about? Or like the bond?
I'm thinking about I'm thinking about Mayor Johnston's bond. I'm thinking about all of the ballot initiatives all over Colorado. They're trying to make childcare a little bit more affordable for people. I'm thinking about all the ballot initiatives across the state that are, starting to think about what do we do about these housing questions. Yeah.
Any thoughts on the Bronco Stadium?
I hope it'll be awesome.
All right. Senator Michael Bennet, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell a Colorado voter about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye.